Hey guys, it's Billy here, and welcome to my vlog. We're vlogging on the 796 today, and my topic of choice is to answer a question. Now you see, I did a video 2 months ago, I suppose, called KLR Review After Alaska. Now if you didn't see that video, the KLR did not perform very well. To be honest, it performed, you know, just mediocre and just half-ass. But a question that showed up in the comments more than once that I thought was an excellent question was if you had to do it all over again, what would you have done different? Now this question was posted to me by a few people and in a few different ways, and I can interpret that in two distinctive ways. Way number one is, if you had to do it all over again, what bike would you have taken? Or way number two, if you had to do it all over again, what would you have done different? And that's assuming that I would have had to take the KLR. What would I have done different? Now I think this should be a two-part video because those are two distinctive answers, and I don't like to make very long videos. My last video was 17 minutes and I almost cried when I uploaded it. Question number one, what motorcycle would you have taken had you known? Now that's really easy to answer. I would have taken a Suzuki V-Strom 650. This technically could be the end of this video and I could just shut it off here, but I figure my viewers might want to know why I came to this conclusion. So I will tell you. When Tracy first approached me with this idea of going to Alaska, no question in my mind, that's the bike I wanted to go with, is a Suzuki V-Strom, the little one. They call it the Wee-Strom, but it's the 650. Because I had seen pictures of it up in Prudhoe Bay and on the Dolphin, and I knew it had enough power and enough comfort to make a good highway run at it, and it had some off-roading abilities. All you had to do was put some knobbies on it and it'd be good to go. And that's the bike I decided to go with in the beginning. Obviously I researched more than one bike, and some of the ideas that I had in my head were, I looked at the Honda XR 650L, which it has a 2.8 gallon tank. So obviously it was right out off the bat. You can buy aftermarket tanks for those, but I've heard horror stories about them leaking. In fact, Tracy had an aftermarket tank on his KLR before we left for the trip, and it started leaking massive amounts of fuel literally like 24 hours before he took off. So I wasn't really keen on getting an aftermarket plastic milk jug thickness tank. And also the XR is, without a doubt, it's a dirt bike with lights on it. I mean, it is not long touring type of motorcycle. It's great for what it does, which is exploring the woods, probably better than the KLR. Now I know my European viewers, you're watching this video and you're scratching your head. You're like, what about the Transalp or the Africa Twin? You know, you love Honda so much, why didn't you consider those bikes? Well, this, from American point of view, I will tell you, the Honda Transalp was imported to the States, I think, 2 years, 1989 and 1990. And the owners of those bikes have ridden them hard and put them up wet, and they're very, very sentimental about them, and they won't sell them. It's kind of like me with my VFR. I'll never sell my VFR, just from the memories that me and that bike have had. They're extremely hard to find because they only sold them for 2 years, and even if I were to find one and find a owner that was willing to sell it to me, it'd still be a 20-year-old bike, and it just really wasn't something that I really pursued all that much. Now in Europe and other countries, Honda still sells the Transalp, and they sell another adventure bike called the Africa Twin. And had those been two options here in the States, I wouldn't have slept, because I would have been deciding between the two of them all night long. Without a question, I wouldn't even have considered any other bikes. I would have picked one of those. And my final decision would have been based on, you know, which one I could find cheaper, or which one came in the color I wanted. But both of those bikes would have been so much better than the KLR. Another option that I considered was the BMW FS 800, which unfortunately was just a little bit out of my budget for you know, I knew that I'd be riding this bike for only one season, so, you know, I didn't really want to spend 8 or 9 grand on a bike. Now there were 3 things that decided the KLR coming into my life. It decided our destinies crossing. One was Tracy bought a KLR. Now, mind you, me and Tracy are not competitive, and we don't do the keep up with the Joneses kind of thing. He wears an Aero Stitch suit, and I'm wearing Icon slider jeans, and he bought a BMW big giant touring machine, and I have a Ducati Hyper Motard. We generally go different directions when it comes to motorcycling, and I've kind of considered doing a video about that someday. But that's not the point. The point is, Tracy had a very good argument for the KLR in that he was going to tear it down completely. He pulled the engine out of the thing, and he tore it down, and he learned a lot about the KLR. So basically, we would be having a KLR mechanic with us along the ride, and so that was a really good point for me buying a KLR. Also, having identical models we could cannibalize if we needed to. We could cannibalize parts off each other if we needed something to limp either bike home. And so that was a really strong justification for getting a KLR. The second thing that happened while I was Googling and interneting and researching this Alaska trip, I stumbled upon a video done by Dave Despain. And he was going to Alaska on a KLR. Now, if you don't know who Dave Despain is, he's a very well-known moto journalist. He hosts a show on Speed Network or Speed TV called Wind Tunnel, and it's mostly like NASCAR racing crap, and it's a bunch of junk that I'm not interested in. But he's an extremely well-known member of the motorcycling community, nominated into the Motorcycle Hall of Fame. And he was an amateur racer, or I guess he was a professional racer back in the late 60s, early 70s, and he's a contributing editor to the magazine Cycle World, which his articles that I've read them since I was a kid, and he is a wonderful writer, very, very technical minded, and he really understands the spirituality of motorcycles. And so my thought was, well, shit, if Dave Despain's taking a KLR up to Alaska, why the hell shouldn't I? It's Dave Despain, for God's sake. And it wasn't like Speed TV gave him a brand new 2011 KLR and he was just going out there for the show. It seemed to me it was his personal bike, because it was like a 2006 or 2005, same model as mine, and he had the oversized tank on it, and he had these ratty ass bags, and it was just, the bike looked beat to hell. And the video I saw, which I wish I could find it again, because I'd link it down below. If you guys see this video, please send it to me. But the video I saw was a packing video on what he was taking on his Alaska trip, and in the floor of his hotel room. And it was, it reminded me a lot of mine. It wasn't quite as in-depth as mine, but it was still pretty badass to watch. So that was the second thumbs up for the KLR. Tracy being well versed in the mechanics of it, and Dave Despain rode one to Alaska, so what the hell. And then the third thing that came along from the KLR was I sold my CB919, and I had the money in my hand, and I was now bike shopping, still wanting to get the Suzuki DL650 V-Strom. That was my intention. And I couldn't find one close. I found a couple in Kansas City and a couple in Chicago, but none locally. And I stumbled upon my KLR. Now, I got this thing dirt cheap. It was just a steal. I got this thing for 2,200 bucks. It had 6,000 miles on it. It had already had the doohickey done. It had a tail rack and some other little bits and pieces done to it. And it was one of those, I could not pass it up, because for the money that I got from my CB919, the money I had left over, I could fully deck this bike in full full adventure trim, and it would be customized to exactly what I wanted it to be. So it was one of those things with the two factors I mentioned before, and then pow, got one cheap as dirt. So anyway, that's the answer to that question. I will do the second part of this video probably tomorrow. So take care, guys, and I will see you on the road.